Here I am, American in Australia, businessman on a jazz club stage, and capital markets in front of mining companies. But it is my pleasure to be here this evening, and I will definitely try and keep my comments short. I've promised myself to be shorter than the movie Australia, so hopefully that we can get to some food. But on a serious note, I do find it interesting to be here. My father actually works for an Australian-based company called Osaka, which is doing mining infrastructure, mining and energy infrastructure. So it's kind of apropos to be here for this group. And of course, he wishes that he was here in beautiful Sydney, of course. So what we're going to do for a little bit tonight is talk about NASDAQ as a center of capital formation. You guys are probably wondering a little bit about why I'm here and why I'm speaking about NASDAQ. I think in today's tumultuous markets, there's certainly a lot of reason to be talking about how your exchanges around the globe, whether it's NASDAQ, whether it's ASX here in Australia, how those exchanges are actually starting to help keep calm in the markets. So first, we'll just talk a little bit about who is NASDAQ. Most people think of NASDAQ, they think that we are a US exchange. We're certainly much more than that. We're an exchange that has offices in about 70 countries. We operate 24 markets. We have 3 clearinghouses, 5 central securities depositories, and of course, we do have a very large office here in Sydney. In fact, I learned today it was much larger than I even realized, at about 200 people, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So what you also probably don't know is that we're actually a technology company. We actually have spent years developing innovative technologies for trading platforms, clearing platforms, and also for risk management initiatives. We have about 70 customers around the globe, mostly exchanges, mostly clearinghouses, and again, other regulatory bodies. And those entities are using our technologies to run their businesses. We have businesses using that around the globe, from Kuwait to Osaka to here in Australia to certainly financial centers in Europe. In addition to providing all of the technology, we're also a provider of market data, financial products, the corporate solutions that I'll speak a little bit about, and of course, at our core, we're a listing and trading venue for both investors and for public companies. Today, we're home to about 3,500 public companies globally, many of which are probably companies that some of you are investing in. For the mining folks here, some of those are your partners, your customers, and many are probably your suppliers as well. We do have a long history in Australia. We've partnered with ASX for probably about 12 years at this point, providing the trading engine with which all of the trades take place on ASX. We're certainly helping them to manage to run an efficient and orderly market here in Australia. And about a year ago, we bought a company called Smarts Group. And Smarts Group is actually doing market surveillance technology, and we have begun to implement those technologies globally as part of our technology solutions. So what are we doing today to help calm the markets? I know that many of the mining companies that we have here have seen phenomenal growth, but believe it or not, guys, we're in an uncertain market climate, uncertain economy. So what are we doing to help that? Obviously, through our technologies and through our own proprietary businesses, we're certainly focused on encouraging good market structure. With the focus on market structure, what we really want to do is focus on helping increase liquidity. Liquidity, of course, helps to raise capital, which helps companies like these folks that are speaking here tonight to innovate, to grow, and to expand upon their businesses. And with that, of course, the economy continues to expand and grow. And of course, we look to help increase the job production around the globe through that. I think it's been interesting, NASDAQ as sort of a pioneer of trading, automation in trading. We have been at the forefront of that since our inception in 1971. But today you're seeing a lot of alternative trading platforms pop up, and you're seeing the consolidation within the exchange environment continue to happen. I know everybody here has probably heard a little bit of news about that in recent months when the SGX tried to acquire ASX here in Australia. What's interesting about those two phenomenons, the alternative trading platforms as well as the consolidation, is that with that activity, you're seeing continued innovation and you're seeing continued growth within that industry, which is helping to keep us competitive, and in doing so is helping to keep trading prices down and making it cheaper for people to invest. I think the benefits to investors are certainly seen through the competition that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. We certainly strive to have strong regulation, strong governance practices, but we also recognize that public companies need to have fair regulation and fair governance practices that don't hinder them from going public and don't stop them from growing. So let's talk a little bit about the listings business. This is one that's sort of near and dear to my heart. I started out in our listings business, and our corporate solutions business was grown out of this. Our listings business today is worth probably about $5.5 trillion. I think you look at that business and it certainly changes on a day-to-day basis. Last week it probably was 5 trillion, this year this week 5.5 trillion. The market fluctuations that we're seeing are changing those amounts quite drastically. But what I want to explain to everybody in this room is the common misconception that NASDAQ OMX is really just a venue for technology companies. As you can see from this pie chart, we actually are representing a number of industries. We have industries that represent leaders across those industries, from technology to financials, certainly on the consumer side, and of course on the resource side. We'll be talking about that later at our table to see if we can get some of these wonderful mining companies to list with us in the US. I imagine many of the partners, again, companies you're investing in, the partners and peers of the mining companies here, and certainly the consumers of those companies are listed with us. I think the one thing that we see is that all of the companies that list with us have one thing in common, and I think that's that their DNA involves innovation. The names that you see up here will certainly spark belief that innovation is resident within most of these companies. So what's been happening with public offerings? You can imagine it's a time of fluctuation in that space. Right now, there's more venture capital money being poured into companies than we've seen since the era of the dot-com. But what's happening once that venture capital money is being used and invested is not always a public offering as it was during that era. The companies are finding it harder and harder to realize their goals once they've gotten that venture capital money. And of course, what we're trying to do is to help companies become public so that they can realize additional capital raising and continue their growth and continue to innovate in the way that they have been before their public offering. As you can see from this chart, Asia-Pac as a whole has been the fastest growing IPO market for us. It's grown at an incredible speed over the last few years. This is Q2 of 2011. The capital's been rushing into that market. I think, as you guys, again, in the mining industry know, the Asia-Pac region is where a lot of the economic growth is taking place, and certainly where the investment into your resources in Australia is taking place. The recent trends and the fluctuations in the market have certainly slowed down IPOs. If you talk to our IPO team based out of our Hong Kong office, you'll note that they've been very, bored, for lack of a better way of saying it. They have been going around meeting the same companies, and these companies have been continuing to say, yes, we are planning to go public, but not right now. I think there's a general feel that they need to wait until this up and down of the market slows down for them so that they can go out in a positive environment and it doesn't have adverse impacts on them. That being said, as we work with these companies, we will work with them to bring them public at the right time, and I think you will see, again, Asia Pac leading the way in the IPO markets. The US markets have certainly flattened in terms of number of listed companies, and certainly Europe, with all of its debt crises and various other economic issues going on there, has flattened as well. The Middle East and Africa, obviously we had a lot of sovereign wealth pouring into companies a few years ago, and today you've seen that money slow down, and therefore not very many companies coming out of that region. So how are we actually supporting the companies when they go public? I think this is an important area for us to focus on as an exchange. We feel that we have a responsibility to ensure that companies are able to communicate with investors, that they're able to understand their own fundamentals, understand information about their peers, and of course, they need to have strong governance. So about 6 years ago, NASDAQ OMX started a business, the Corporate Solutions business. We started this business with the notion that our companies were struggling, particularly in light of a lot of new regulatory constraints being put on them. Our companies were struggling on how to manage their investor base, how to communicate to their investor base. So we started building products and buying companies that provided products that would help our companies with that set of activities. Today, we've actually seen a convergence between those three areas. You talk about investor relations, you talk about communications, you talk about governance. I don't think ever before have I seen companies coordinating in all of those areas at the level that they are today. You used to have your investor relations officer and your communications officer and your corporate secretary all doing things fairly much in a vacuum. Today, they're working very closely together, and I think our solutions that we're bringing to market are designed really to help each of those areas work together as well as complete their own day-to-day workflows. So what are those solutions? We have a number of solutions that we're providing to companies, not just NASDAQ listed. We provide companies around the globe with these solutions. We provide both public and private companies with certain solutions. And we bucket them into these three different areas: intelligence, communications, and governance. Just very quickly on the intelligence front, what we're focused on is providing companies with ownership information, with research, equity research information, with analytics about themselves and their peers. So as an example, our corporate intelligence product provides these companies with the ability to go out and target new investors, to plan road shows, to understand who owns their peers, who doesn't own them, and really begin to paint the picture of how they should manage their investor outreach. On the communications front, we're really talking about how do you ensure that there's fair disclosure of information. So we have our investor relations websites. We have a newswire business that distributes news on a global basis. We do interactive media, so we provide companies with the ability to do video casting, corporate videos, as well as manage a ton of quarterly earnings calls, just the audio call. Then on the governance front, we have a small suite of solutions, which is anchored by our Director's Desk product, which is a product to help bring corporate executives and board members into a secure online portal, helping the corporate secretary to manage the workflow of tools, of materials, and be able to provide it through this tool to the board members. So it takes away some of the pain of managing all of this in a paper form. So just to sort of wrap up on what we're talking about here today, the solutions that we are providing to help companies, again, through these tumultuous times. We now have, as I mentioned, about 400 webcasts a month taking place for our companies. We host about 1,500 IR websites. We do about 500 news releases every week on behalf of our clients. And of course, we have about 10,000, actually, I think that's about 15,000 now, board members accessing our Director's Desk portal. We have about 3,500 companies using our products. Important to know that about 35% of those are not NASDAQ listed companies, so we are working with companies around the globe. Obviously, I think why Tim and the team invited me here today is that we're in the process of building this suite of services out more robustly in Asia Pac. We have a team building in the Hong Kong office of NASDAQ OMX. We're spending time here across Asia Pac to ensure that we can provide these solutions to companies and provide them the support that they need to manage through these solutions. So with that, I think I am the official bell ringer, which normally would drive me to our market site in Times Square, which you can see there, and either ring the bell to open or close the market. But I think tonight, officially, I'm supposed to ring the bell. That means we're going to eat dinner. So with that, I'd like to thank Tim and the rest of the team, Investorium, et cetera, for hosting us here tonight. Thank you all for your time, and enjoy your dinner.